For The first impact wasn't against the door. It was his knuckles splitting across my cheekbone like fireworks. He whispered, "Don't make a sound." I didn't call 911. My fingers just traced 3 letters, a code my team would understand instantly. Minute 3, our porch light died. Minute 5, the neighbor's dog howled. Minute 6, the windows rattled a helicopter circling directly overhead. Tonight, the name Victor Kane would echo through the loudspeaker, followed by 2 words, "Hands up." My name is Evelyn Hart, and at 4:03 a.m., I could taste copper flooding my mouth while my stepfather's fingers dug into my windpipe like he was trying to reach bone. The kitchen clock's green digits burned through my peripheral vision. 4:03 became 4:04. My left shoulder screamed as Victor Kane pressed his 200 pounds against me, pinning me to the cold linoleum of our rented apartment just outside Alder Ridge Training Facility's main gate. The fluorescent bulb above us flickered, casting his face in stuttering shadows that made him look like something crawled up from a nightmare. "You think you're tough now?" His breath reeked of Marlboro Reds and Jim Beam. "All that military bullshit, you're still that scared little girl I had to teach manners to." My mother stood frozen in the doorway. Lila Hart, the woman who once sang me to sleep, who taught me to tie my shoes with infinite patience, now watched with vacant eyes as her husband tried to crush the life from her daughter. Her nightgown hung loose on her frame. She'd lost 20 pounds this year alone. The bruise under her left eye had faded to yellow-green, almost artistic in the harsh light. My right hand scraped across the floor, fingernails breaking against the tiles until they found my phone, knocked from the counter in the initial struggle. Muscle memory took over thumb to screen. The emergency shortcut I'd programmed months ago. 3 letters, SOS. Sent to Raven 6, my unit's encrypted channel. Victor's knee drove into my ribs. Looking at your phone. While I'm talking to you, I locked my legs around his hip, a move drilled into me through countless hours of close-quarters combat training. Not to attack, not yet, but to buy time. The clock jumped to 4:05. "Victor, please." My mother's voice cracked like old leather. "Shut up, Lila. This is between me and your ungrateful brat." The apartment's walls were thin. I could hear Mrs. Rodriguez's television through the shared wall, some late-night infomercial about miracle cleaning products. No help coming from there. But my team Sloan would be on night duty. She never missed a message, never left anyone behind. That was our code, beaten into us during Hell Week when the Washington rain turned every exercise into a survival test. My dislocated shoulder sent white-hot signals up my spine, vision starting to tunnel, darkness creeping in from the edges like spilled ink. But I'd been here before in training. Instructor Torres had choked me out 17 times until I learned to manage the panic, to count the seconds, to trust my body's limits. Victor's grip shifted, and I saw my opening, but not yet. Wait for the cavalry. The plan was already in motion. I just had to survive long enough to see it through. Through the window. I caught the first sign the streetlight outside flickered and died. Then another. Someone was killing the grid, section by section. My team was coming. "You always thought you were better than us," Victor snarled, spittle hitting my face. "Running off to play soldier, leaving your mother." The apartment shook, subtle at first, then building the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of rotor blades cutting through the night air. The water glasses on the counter started dancing. Mrs. Rodriguez's dog began howling. Victor's eyes widened, his grip loosening just a fraction. "What the hell? 4:06 The windows exploded with light. The smell of motor oil and maple syrup, that's what I remember most about my father. Michael Hart. Every Sunday morning in our small house on the outskirts of Golden, Colorado, he'd come in from checking his truck, hands still slick with grease, and flip pancakes with the precision of a man who understood machines better than most people understood breathing. He worked the freight rails, maintaining the diesel engines that pulled cargo through the Rockies. "Evie," he'd say, his voice rough from years of shouting over engine noise. "The world's held together by people who know how to fix things when they break." He died when I was 12. A coupling failed 1 second he was inspecting the connection between two cars. The next, he was gone. The insurance barely covered the funeral. Mom's librarian salary at Golden Elementary couldn't stretch to cover the mortgage, groceries, and the mountain of debt Dad never told us about. That's when Victor Kane appeared, like something out of a cautionary tale. He showed up first to fix our leaking roof, a recommendation from Mom's coworker. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hands that could palm a basketball and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He refused payment, said he couldn't take money from a grieving widow. Mom's eyes went soft with gratitude. I should have seen it then, the calculation behind his generosity. Within 3 months, he was having dinner with us every Friday. Within 6, he'd moved in. The wedding happened so quietly I didn't know about it until I came home from school to find his work boots permanently stationed by our front door. The rules started small. Keep your bedroom door open. We're a family now. No secrets. Write down every dollar you spend. Financial responsibility. Evelyn. No going to Sarah's house after school. Your mother worries when you're not home. By the time I turned 15, my world had shrunk to the size of Victor's permissions. Mom had stopped wearing her favorite red lipstick because Victor said it made her look cheap. She quit her book club because Victor needed dinner at exactly 6:30. The woman who once led story time with theatrical voices now spoke in careful, measured whispers. The first time he hit me, I was 17. I'd stayed late at school for a chemistry study group without asking permission. When I walked through the door at 8 p.m., he backhanded me so hard I saw stars. Mom stood behind him, clutching a dish towel, her mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. "Lila, tell her," Victor commanded. "You should have called," my mother whispered, not meeting my eyes. "You know how we worry." That night, I lay awake feeling the heat radiating from my swollen cheek, planning my escape. The Army recruitment office was 14 miles away. I'd walked past it 100 times, never imagining it as a door to freedom. But lying there, listening to Victor's snoring through the thin walls and my mother's muffled crying, I understood what my father meant about fixing broken things. Sometimes you had to start with yourself. The next morning, I told them I was going to the library. Instead, I signed my life over to Uncle Sam. Basic training started 3 weeks after graduation. When I hugged my mother goodbye at the bus station, she felt like a bundle of bird bones in my arms. "I'll come back for you," I whispered into her graying hair. She pulled away, straightened my collar with shaking hands. "Just take care of yourself, baby." Victor stood 10 feet back, arms crossed, that satisfied smirk playing at his lips. He'd won, or so he thought. Got rid of the inconvenient stepdaughter who might have fought back, who might have convinced Lila to leave. But he didn't understand what I was becoming at Alder Gate, what they were forging me into. Every bruise he'd given me, every night I'd spent breathing shallow to avoid his notice, every moment of my mother's silence, they all crystallized into purpose during those brutal training months. When other recruits broke under the pressure, I thrived. I'd already survived worse than anything Sergeant Instructor Reeves could throw at me. This was my inheritance, not my father's tools or my mother's books, but the patient fury of someone who'd been powerless for too long and was finally learning how to fight back. The rain at Alder Ridge didn't fall, it attacked. My first night at the training facility, I stood in formation while Washington's November downpour turned us into shivering statues. The Douglas firs surrounding the compound looked like dark sentinels in the fog, and I remember thinking this place would either kill me or remake me. "Welcome to selection," Captain Mara Kincaid announced, her voice cutting through the storm like a blade. Water streamed off her patrol cap, but she didn't even blink. 70% of you won't make it past week 3. The rest will earn the right to call themselves Aldergate operators. She was right about the dropout rate. By day 10, half my barracks had rung out, choosing failure over the relentless grind of pre-dawn runs through mud that sucked at our boots like quicksand. The obstacle course, a maze of rope walls, water pits, and barbed wire claimed more. But I stayed. Every time my muscles screamed for mercy, I pictured Victor's smirk. Every time hypothermia clawed at my core during night navigation exercises, I remembered my mother's empty eyes. Sloane Mercer tried to break me before she saved me. She was already a legend, the Texas hurricane who'd broken the course record for the 10-mile ruck march. During pugil stick drills, she hit me so hard my teeth rattled. In the mess hall, she'd stare at me while slowly eating her MRE, like a wolf deciding if I was worth the effort to hunt. "You're soft Colorado," she said during week 4, after I'd fallen off the traverse rope for the 3rd time. My hands were hamburger, blood mixing with rain. "This isn't summer camp. I'm still here," I shot back, spitting mud. "Being here isn't enough. We don't carry dead weight." That night, she kicked my bunk at 2 a.m. "Get up. We're running Demon's Mile." Demon's Mile was an unauthorized trail through the deepest part of the forest, a brutal climb that wasn't on any training schedule. We ran it in complete darkness, branches whipping at our faces, our breath forming ghosts in the cold air. At the summit, she finally stopped. "Why are you here, Heart?" "To serve my country." Bullshit. Try again. I wanted to lie, to give her the recruiting poster answer, but standing there, lungs burning, I told her about Victor, about my mother, about the promise I'd made. Sloane was quiet for a long moment. Then, "My old man put me in the hospital twice before I turned 16. The Army gave me a way to fight back against every bastard who thinks fear equals power." She turned to face me. "But this only works if you're doing it for yourself, not for someone who won't save themselves. She's my mother, and you're not her savior. You're a soldier. Learn the difference." We ran back in silence. But from that night on, Sloane had my 6. When I dislocated my shoulder during combatives, she reset it without calling medical. When I qualified expert on the range, she was the first to slap my back. We became a machine, her brutal efficiency balancing my stubborn endurance. Captain Kincaid noticed. During my final evaluation, she pulled me aside. "Heart, you don't quit. That's rare." She studied me with eyes that had seen too many operations gone wrong. "But not quitting isn't the same as winning. You fight like someone who expects to lose but refuses to accept it." "I won't lose, ma'am." "No," she said slowly. "I don't think you will." I graduated selection, earned my place in Raven 6. The pin ceremony was small, no family in the audience, just my new unit. But when they handed me that badge, I felt my father's presence, like he was standing right behind me, smelling of motor oil and promise. I called home that night. Mom answered on the first ring. "Evelyn, baby. Is that you?" "I made it. Mom, I'm stationed at Fort Dalton, just outside Seattle. I can come visit." "No." The word came out sharp, panicked. "No, Victor doesn't. It's better if you focus on your career." "I'm fine. Really." I heard him in the background, asking who was calling. "I have to go," she whispered. "I'm so proud of you." The line went dead. I stood in the rain because it was always raining at Alder Ridge and made a new promise. Not to save her, but to be ready when she finally decided to save herself. The Christmas photo arrived 3 weeks later. Mom's smile didn't reach her eyes, and the scarf around her neck didn't quite hide the bruising. I pinned it to my barracks wall, right next to my father's picture. Soon, I told them both. The visit home lasted exactly 37 hours. I'd driven straight through from Washington to Colorado, downing gas station coffee and listening to true crime podcasts to stay awake. When I pulled up to the house, Victor was on the porch, smoking a Marlboro Red like he'd been waiting. "Well, look what the Army dragged in," he said, not getting up from his chair. I walked past him without a word. Inside, Mom had lost more weight. We hugged in the kitchen while Victor watched from the doorway. When I left the next morning, he followed me to my rental car. "I know where you're stationed," he said quietly, leaning close enough that I could smell the tobacco on his breath. "Alder Ridge, Building 7. I got friends everywhere. Little soldier girl." The words hit like ice water. Building 7 was our barracks number information no civilian should have. I drove away with my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Back at base, everything changed. The anonymous calls started 3 days later. My phone would ring at 2:15 a.m., 3:45 a.m., always those precise, strange times. When I answered, there'd be breathing, then country music, the same Garth Brooks song Victor used to blast while working on his truck. "Wrong number," Sloan asked after the 4th night of interrupted sleep. "Something like that." Then the cigarette butts began appearing. Marlboro Reds, crushed out and left under my window outside the security zone, where civilians could walk the perimeter trail. 1, then 3, then 7 in a single morning, arranged in a perfect line like soldiers at attention. The emails came next, always from different addresses, a photo of our old barn in Golden with a red X spray-painted on the door. A picture of my mother at the grocery store, taken from across the parking lot. A screenshot of Building 7 from Google Earth with a circle drawn around it. I reported everything to security. Staff Sergeant Mills took notes, filed reports, but without direct threats or evidence linking them to Victor. His hands were tied. "Could be anyone," he said, though his eyes said he didn't believe it. "We'll increase patrols." The psychological warfare escalated. I'd returned from training to find my door unlocked, nothing missing, just moved. My coffee mug shifted 2 inches left. My father's photo turned face down. Tiny violations that said, "I can reach you anywhere." "You're jumpier than a cat in a thunderstorm," Captain Kincaid observed during a briefing. "Something I should know about. Heart. Personal situation, ma'am. I'm handling it. Make sure you do." We can't afford distraction. But I was drowning in distraction. Every shadow could be Victor. Every unexpected sound made my hand reach for my sidearm. During a night exercise, I nearly broke Private Morrison's wrist when he approached from behind without announcing himself. Sloan cornered me in the armory. "You're gonna tell me what's going on, or I'm going to Kincaid myself." So I told her. Everything. The visits, the calls, the implicit threats. She listened with that stillness she got before violence. Why not let us handle him? One word to the team and, "No. If we go after him without cause, I lose everything, my career, my clearance, and Mom pays the price." "Then what's your play?" "Wait, document everything. He'll escalate guys like him always do. And when he crosses the line, when he gives me legal justification, you'll be ready." I started sleeping in shifts. Phone always charged, always within reach. I updated the emergency protocols on my phone, creating a 3-character shortcut that would send a location, distress signal, and activate recording simultaneously. The team thought I was paranoid. Sloan called it prepared. The final message came on a Tuesday. A video this time, shaky footage of me sleeping, taken through my apartment window 2 nights before. I'd moved off base for privacy, thinking civilian housing would be safer. The video panned to show my door, the spare key rock I'd hidden, then back to my unconscious face. The timestamp read 3:33 a.m. The message attached said, "Next time I won't just watch." I forwarded everything to base security and the local police. Detective Morrison from Pinecrest County took my statement with the weariness of someone who'd seen too many stalking cases end badly. Without physical contact or explicit threats, it's hard to get a restraining order approved, she said, but keep your phone ready. The second he makes physical contact, you call us. That night, I sat Raven 6 down in our ready room. "If you get an SOS from me," I said, "I need you to move fast and ask questions later." "Rules of engagement," asked Rodriguez, our heavy weapons specialist. "Whatever it takes to stop him." Sloan stood up. "Then we'll be ready. Nobody touches one of ours." I went home that night knowing Victor would come. Men like him can't stand being ignored, can't tolerate defiance. He'd make his move, and when he did, I wouldn't be a scared 17-year-old anymore. I was Sergeant Evelyn Hart, Aldergate operator, and I was ready for war. 4 a.m. The first blow snapped my head back, copper flooding my mouth as his knuckles connected with my cheekbone. My phone was on the nightstand 3 feet that might as well have been 3 miles as Victor's weight crashed down on me. Thought you were safe here. His breath was hot, reeking of whiskey and rage. Your military buddies can't help you now. My thumb found the phone's power button, muscle memory guiding me to the emergency shortcut. 3 letters SOS broadcasting to Raven 6's encrypted channel. 4:01 a.m. Message sent. Somewhere across base. Phones were lighting up. Sloane would be at the watch desk. She'd switched shifts with Martinez specifically to cover tonight, though I hadn't asked her to. She'd see the alert, trace my GPS, and the machine would start moving. Protocol dictated she'd hit the emergency chain-based security, local law enforcement, medical standby. But knowing Sloane, she'd skip straight to action. 4:02. Victor's hands found my throat. Your mom finally told me where you lived. Took some convincing, but she always was weak. Behind him, my mother stood frozen in my apartment doorway. He'd brought her here, used her to get past the security door. Her face was a map of fresh bruises, one eye swollen shut. I drove my knee up, catching his kidney, but his grip only tightened. The apartment's layout worked against me. Narrow hallway, no room to maneuver. Classic fatal funnel. Should have chosen a place with better exits. 4:03. Through the wall. I heard boots on stairs, not regular footsteps, but the synchronized thunder of tactical movement. The building's exterior lights began dying in sequence. Standard darkness protocol: kill the lights, own the night. Victor noticed nothing, lost in his rage. You ruined everything. Lila was obedient before you started filling her head with ideas. My left hand found his thumb, bending it back until I heard cartilage pop. He howled, grip loosening just enough for me to bridge my hips and roll. We crashed into the coffee table, magazines and remote controls scattering. 4:04. The neighbor's German shepherd started going insane, aggressive barking that meant strangers in proximity. Through my window, shadows moved across the parking lot with purpose. A Pinecrest County patrol unit was already in position, lights dark, engine running silent. Mom! I gasped out, managing to get an elbow into Victor's solar plexus. Get outside, now! She didn't move. Hadn't moved since they'd entered. Trauma response, complete dissociation. Victor recovered, slamming my head against the floor. Stars exploded across my vision. But I heard it now, the distant whump-whump-whump of rotor blades. The county sheriff's helicopter was already airborne, probably diverted from traffic patrol. Sloane must have called in every favor, cited imminent threat to federal personnel. 4:05. The sound grew louder, rattling windows. Someone was coordinating this like a military operation grid by grid light suppression, aerial support, ground units. The parking lot floods went dark. The street lamps died. Only my apartment remained lit, like a stage waiting for the final act. Victor finally noticed. What the hell? The helicopter's searchlight hit us like the fist of God. Brilliant white light flooded through every window, casting knife-sharp shadows. The rotor wash shook the building, pictures falling off walls, dust devils spinning on the floor. Attention occupants! The loudspeaker was deafening, authoritative. Male subject in brown jacket, release the woman and exit with your hands visible. Victor's face went pale, then purple with rage. You called them, you fucking... He pulled back for another strike, but the apartment door exploded inward. Sloane came through first full tactical gear, rifle raised, followed by 2 military police officers. The precision was beautiful, terrifying. They moved like water, like violence given form. Federal agent nobody move. Victor made the mistake of turning toward them, his hand still raised. In that moment of distraction, I executed the sweep Sergeant Reeves had drilled into us 1,000 times. Victor went down hard, his head bouncing off the linoleum. 4:06. More boots in the hallway. The apartment filled with uniforms, base security, county sheriffs, even Captain Kincaid, who must have broken every speed limit to get here. Sergeant Hart, she said calmly, as if we were in a briefing room and not a disaster zone. Status: alive, ma'am. Suspect is Victor Kane. Breaking and entering, assault, violation of federal property. Sloane already had her knee in Victor's back, zip cuffs going on with practiced efficiency. Got him. Through it all, my mother hadn't moved. She stood in the doorway like a broken doll, watching her husband of 10 years face down on my floor, watching her daughter bleeding but victorious, watching armed officers fill the space that had been our battlefield. The helicopter maintained its hover, searchlight never wavering, rotor wash continuing to shake the building. The message was clear. You came for one of ours. This is what happens. Victor tried to speak, but Sloane pressed harder. Sir, I strongly advise you to remain silent. The clock on my microwave clicked to 4:07. 7 minutes from impact to resolution. Just like we'd trained for. My left shoulder was screaming, dislocated from the initial impact when Victor had slammed me against the door frame. The pain shot down my arm like electric wire, but pain was just information. Process it, file it, keep moving. Victor bucked against Sloane's hold, trying to throw her off. Get off me, I'll sue every one of you. I rolled onto my right side, using the wall to brace myself. The room tilted, vertigo from the head trauma, but I'd fought through worse in training. My good hand found the overturned coffee table's edge, using it to pivot. Victor's legs were exposed, stretched out as he struggled. No fancy moves left, just survival basics. I drove my heel into the back of his knee, the perineal nerve, a sweet spot that would light up his entire nervous system. He screamed, leg buckling. Sloane used the momentum to torque his arm higher, forcing his face flat against the floor. Lila, Victor roared. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. My mother finally moved just one step backward, deeper into the hallway's shadow. For a second, our eyes met. Something flickered there, beneath years of conditioned fear. Not quite courage, but maybe its predecessor recognition. She was seeing him clearly, maybe for the first time. Mom, I said, my voice rough from the choking. Step outside, please. She took another step back, then another. When she reached the doorway, her hand found the frame, gripping it like an anchor. The helicopter's searchlight caught her face-hollow cheeks, premature lines, that swollen eye, and I saw the other officers register what kind of man we were dealing with. Victor tried one more surge, pure desperation now. He managed to get his right arm partially free, swinging blind. His elbow caught me in the ribs, the same spot he'd kneed earlier, and I felt something give, cracked, maybe broken. But I'd learned something at Alder Ridge that Victor never understood. Pain shared is pain halved. Rodriguez was already moving, dropping his knee onto Victor's shoulder blade with his full 220 pounds. Michaels, our medic, slid in from the other side, helping Sloane secure the free arm. Stop resisting! Captain Kincaid's voice cut through the chaos. You're under arrest for assault on federal personnel, breaking and entering, and violation of the Military Family Protection Act. That last one was improvised, no such act existed, but it sounded official enough to make Victor pause. I pulled myself up using the kitchen counter, my left arm hanging useless. The knife block was right there 6 inches from where Victor had first grabbed me. If I'd been a different person, if Alder Gate hadn't taught me discipline alongside violence, this might have ended differently. Evelyn. Sloane's voice was steady, grounding. We've got him. She was right. Victor was fully restrained now, face pressed to the floor, 3 operators holding him down. But I needed him to understand something. I knelt beside his head, careful to stay out of reach. You're done, I said quietly, just for him. No more hiding behind closed doors. No more using fear as a weapon. Everything you've done is going to come to light. You can't prove anything, he sputtered into the linoleum. Your boots left mud prints in the hallway distinctive tread pattern. The cigarette butts under my window have your DNA. The threatening emails came from IP addresses that will trace back to your devices. My mother's medical records will show a pattern of suspicious injuries. And right now, you're on 3 different body cameras assaulting a uniformed service member." The fight went out of him then, all at once, like air from a punctured tire. I stood, swaying slightly, and found Captain Kincaid watching me with those calculating eyes. "Sergeant Hart, you need medical attention." "After he's gone, ma'am." She nodded, understanding. This needed to be finished properly. The military police officers took over, professionally hauling Victor to his feet. His face was already swelling where it had met the floor, blood trickling from his nose. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, just a bitter, aging man who'd mistaken fear for power. As they marched him toward the door, he turned back to look at my mother one last time. "Lila, you're nothing without me." She straightened, just a little. "I was something before you." It wasn't much, barely a whisper, but it was the first time I'd heard her contradict him in over a decade. The apartment emptied out in reverse order: county sheriffs first, then base security, leaving just Raven 6 and Captain Kincaid. The helicopter finally peeled away, its searchlight sweeping one last time across the parking lot before disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness. Michaels was already checking my shoulder, gentle hands probing for additional damage. "Dislocated anterior, probable rib fractures. We need x-rays." "In a minute," I said, moving toward my mother. She stood alone in the doorway, looking lost. I wrapped my good arm around her, and she collapsed against me. No words, just shaking. Through the window, I could see the police car's taillights disappearing down the street, taking Victor away. It had taken exactly 6 minutes to end 10 years of terror. Part 7. The military police officer's voice was steady, professional, each word a nail in Victor's coffin. "Victor Kane, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney." The Miranda warning continued as they stood him up, his hands cuffed behind his back. The brown jacket he'd worn, the same one from every nightmare. Every threatening visit was torn at the shoulder. Blood from his nose had dripped onto the collar, dark spots spreading like evidence of his downfall. "You're making a mistake," Victor said, but the fight had left his voice. "I'm her father. This is a family matter." "Stepfather," Captain Kincaid corrected coldly. "And you assaulted a United States Army sergeant on federal property. The jurisdiction is clear." The apartment complex had come alive, neighbors peering through blinds, some standing on their balconies despite the cold. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door had her phone out, recording everything. Tomorrow, Victor's arrest would be all over the neighborhood social media pages. No more hiding behind suburban respectability. Detective Morrison from Pinecrest County had arrived, tablet in hand. "Mr. Kane, you're also being charged with breaking and entering, aggravated assault, domestic violence, and stalking across state lines. That last one makes this a federal case." "Federal?" The word came out strangled. "You crossed from Colorado to Washington to commit these crimes," she explained with grim satisfaction. "You threatened military personnel. You invaded a federal installation's family housing. The FBI will be taking interest." Sloan moved closer to me, speaking low enough that only I could hear. "Got it all. Hart. Every second from when your SOS came through. Audio and video streaming to base servers." I nodded, watching as they guided Victor toward the police cruiser. The helicopter had moved to a higher altitude but maintained its position, rotors beating a rhythm that seemed to match my pulse. Its searchlight occasionally swept the area, a reminder of the force that had assembled in minutes. "This is kidnapping," Victor tried one last time, twisting to look back at my mother. "Lila, tell them you came willingly." My mother stepped forward, and for a moment, I thought she might cave, might fall back into old patterns. Instead, she pulled her phone from her pocket, an ancient flip phone I didn't even know she had. "I recorded it," she said quietly. "When you made me come here, when you said you'd kill her if I didn't help you get inside." She looked at Detective Morrison. "It's all on here." The detective's eyes sharpened. "Ma'am, I'll need that as evidence." "Take it." Mom handed over the phone like she was passing off a live grenade. "There's more. Months of recordings. I started after—" She touched her swollen eye. "After the last time." Victor's face went from red to white. "You bitch." "Sir, I strongly advise you to remain silent." The officer's hand pressed firmly on Victor's head, guiding him into the cruiser's back seat. Through the window, his eyes met mine one last time. There was no remorse there, just rage and disbelief that his kingdom of fear had crumbled so quickly. Captain Kincaid approached, her expression unreadable. "Sergeant Hart, that was a textbook response to a crisis situation. You maintained composure, called for backup, and survived until support arrived. The team responded perfectly, ma'am." "They did, but you built this network. You prepared them." She looked around the chaos: police cars, ambulance pulling up, neighbors documenting everything. "This is what happens when someone targets one of mine. Let the word spread." The EMTs were moving in now, one heading for my mother, another toward me. I waved them off for a moment, needing to see this through. The police cruiser's engine started. Inside, Victor had gone quiet, staring straight ahead. As they pulled away, the helicopter followed, its searchlight tracking the vehicle like a predator watching prey. The message was clear. "We see you. We have you. You're done." 6 minutes, Rodriguez said, checking his watch. "From SOS to custody. That's got to be a record." "It's not about records," I said, finally letting the EMT examine my shoulder. "It's about ending it." My mother stood beside me, watching the taillights disappear. "I should have protected you. When you were young, I should have—" "You protected me tonight." I cut her off gently. "That recording, standing up to him, that took courage. I learned it from you." Her hand found mine, careful of the injuries. "You came back for me, just like you promised." Sloane's radio crackled. "Base confirms receipt of all digital evidence. County prosecutor is already on the line, talking federal charges. He's not walking away from this." I sagged against the ambulance, exhaustion hitting all at once. My shoulder throbbed, ribs screamed, vision kept swimming. But Victor Kane was in custody. My mother was safe, and my team had proven what I'd always known: we don't leave anyone behind. "Ma'am," the EMT insisted, "we really need to get you to the hospital." I nodded, letting them guide me onto a gurney. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I caught sight of the eastern sky just beginning to lighten. Dawn was coming, and for the first time in years, neither my mother nor I would have to fear what the new day might bring. "You're not a scared little girl anymore," my mother whispered, squeezing my hand. "No," I agreed, watching the last police car disappear into the distance. "I'm not." The evidence was overwhelming. Victor's muddy boot prints led from the parking lot straight to my door-size 11 Timberlands with a distinctive worn pattern on the left heel. The forensics team photographed each one, measuring the stride length that matched his height perfectly. Detective Morrison held up an evidence bag containing 7 Marlboro Red cigarette butts. "DNA match will take 48 hours, but the security footage from the coffee shop across the street already shows him dropping these." She pulled out her tablet, showing grainy but clear video of Victor standing under my window at 3 different times over the past week. The neighbor's security camera had captured everything else. Mrs. Rodriguez, bless her paranoid heart, had installed a full surveillance system after a package theft last year. Her cameras caught Victor forcing my mother up the stairs, his hand gripped around her upper arm, her feet stumbling to keep pace. 23 minutes of footage, the detective confirmed. Shows forced entry, visible coercion of Mrs. Hart, and the defendant checking what appears to be a weapon in his jacket pocket. It was a knife. They found it when they searched him a 6-inch hunting blade he'd carried across state lines. The emails on his phone were a goldmine of premeditation. Screenshots of my daily routine, photos of Alder Ridge's entrance taken from public roads, search histories for military base housing security, and Washington state stalking laws. He'd been planning this for months, waiting for the right moment when he thought I'd be most vulnerable. Captain Kincaid had pulled strings I didn't know existed. Within 2 hours, the FBI had taken over the case. Federal charges meant federal time, no early release, no country club prison. Victor Kane was looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. The helicopter had belonged to Pinecrest County Sheriff's Department, but its immediate response wasn't random. Turns out, Sloan had been updating them weekly about the escalating threat, creating a file that put Victor on their priority watch list. When my SOS came through, they were already briefed and ready. Domestic violence against military families is a national security issue, Sheriff Coleman explained as crime scene techs worked. Sergeant Mercer made that very clear. The morning sun was fully up now, painting the chaos in sharp relief. Yellow tape sectioned off the apartment entrance. Evidence markers dotted the ground like breadcrumbs leading to my door. The parking lot had become a command center, federal agents, military police, local law enforcement, all coordinating Victor's complete destruction. My mother sat in the back of an ambulance, getting her eye examined. The swelling would go down, the doctor said, but they documented every bruise, every cut, every old scar. Her testimony would bury him, but more importantly, she was finally ready to give it. 10 years of medical records, she told the FBI agent quietly. I kept everything. X-rays, emergency room visits, photos I took when he was passed out drunk. It's all in a safety deposit box in Golden. She'd been planning too, in her own way, waiting for the strength to use it. The crime scene tape fluttered in the morning breeze as they worked. Each piece of evidence was cataloged, photographed, bagged. The blood droplets from Victor's nose created a perfect trail. My phone, still recording, had captured his confession about watching me sleep, about knowing where I lived, about coming here to teach me a lesson. Rodriguez appeared with a tablet. Base commander wants a full debrief, but he says, and I quote, "Outstanding tactical response. Sergeant Hart, this is why we don't leave our people defenseless." I stood in the parking lot, arm in a sling, watching them process the scene. Every light pole had been examined for tampering. Victor had loosened bulbs to create darkness. Every angle of approach had been photographed. The prosecution would be able to walk a jury through every second of his planned attack. The best part came from an unexpected source. Private Morrison, the kid I'd nearly broken the wrist of during training, had been on night patrol. He'd logged Victor's rental car circling the base 3 times between midnight and 3 a.m., even called in the plates. Another layer of premeditation, another nail in the coffin. Sloan stood beside me as they finished taping off the scene. You know he's done, right? No plea bargain, no reduced sentence. He threatened federal personnel on federal property after crossing state lines. That's Homeland Security territory. I know. I watched them photograph the last bloodstain. My blood, a small pool where my head had hit the floor. But it's not about the time he'll serve. It's about the message. What message? I turned to look at my team, all still there despite the early hour. At my mother, finally free. At the small army that had assembled in 6 minutes to save one of their own. That we protect each other. That there's no place dark enough, no door thick enough, no threat big enough to stop us from defending our family. I touched the sergeant's stripes on my sleeve. He thought I was alone. He learned different. The last evidence van pulled away as the sun climbed higher. My apartment was a crime scene now, uninhabitable, but that was fine. Mom would come stay on base while she filed for divorce and started rebuilding. I'd find a new place, one with better sightlines and exit strategies. Victor Kane would wake up tomorrow in federal custody, facing a lifetime in concrete and steel, but we'd wake up free. The bloodstain on the pavement caught the morning light, and I pressed my boot down on it, marking it with my tread. A period at the end of a sentence that had run on for far too long. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. Please subscribe to the channel if you found this story meaningful, and share your thoughts. Your support means everything. S.